Here.
There
Bam!
you go. We got it. We're there.
We got
We're
it.
in it.
We got it. All right. Look at that. God, I don't feel so old anymore.
Hey, I knew we could do it.
Yeah.
It just took two old minds converging.
Yeah. I'm going to be 48 on Friday.
Ooh, happy early birthday.
Yeah, man. God, it's crazy. Thinking I was going to live this long.
Mike says, is that James Cameron's son?
You know what I get a lot of is, really? Is that what it looked like?
That's what he says. I think it's because he loves your camera so much. I think he's got a deep rooted obsession.
Fair enough.
It's making him feel warm.
Right.
So,
I'm gonna move this over here. All right. So, just give you guys want to know, some history or what? What do you guys
go ahead and
give us about anything, man?
Well,
we'll talk about anything.
Well, why don't you give us your spiel? Like, you've been watching for a little bit now, like, and kind of interesting. I know that we don't line up on everything, but it seems okay. you kind of get the idea of what I'm going for, which is that we gotta we don't always have to line up on everything. It's more about that middle ground, you know. Like there are places where our interests intersect, you know.
Right. Damn it! See, as we were trying to figure out Discord and getting on a conversation, of course I didn't set up anything on Twitch, so like my stream is kind of like just going, who are you talking to? Is there something I need to do there? Just share the screen, I guess. Right?
Yeah, that's what I do. I just pull my Discord over onto my display and then display view. Boom.
All right, gotcha. Sorry.
You're good.
Let's see here. Let's go here.
So what do you think about all this Cyber Ninja shit? I feel like it's a lot of nonsense to put a lot of distrust in our electoral process.
Yeah, there's a ton of stuff. You know, what's funny is that I've experienced recently a lot of cyber stuff for I work for a high-end knife company.
Okay.
And what's funny is that, and I hate to say it, just that China is literally we're looking at hacks and stuff like that every day at our company. Mm-hmm. And I never thought I would have seen something like that on a everyday business level. Like they've been literally trying to hack into our website and our company for like the past couple of years. And that's the truth. That's like literally happened. That happened today. We just set up some new firewalls and weird stuff like that. But I mean, is that kind of what you're getting at? I mean, I'm not necessarily a business, but as far as the election goes, is what you're talking about, right?
Yeah. Like, I mean, here's my thing is I think that I would be fine with any kind of election audit, any kind of security audit. I think it's important. You know, I think it's important to instill faith in our elections. And I think that these are tools that can help do that. However, I feel like the way, and not just feel, but the way it's presented is the way they went about it, and the way their reluctancy to release information about processes and who's financing this, it draws a lot into question for me. And I mean, it wouldn't matter to me if it was a Democratic group, a Republican group, or whatever. That it was just simply like, okay, but you're messing with our ballots and you're not providing transparency. And that's where I get kind of like, okay, well, you know, I'm worried about those cats too, but you know, I'm worried about China too, but at the same time, I'm like, our own have to be transparent to demonstrate, like, you know, because we got people within our country that'll screw us over. They don't care about us. I mean,
right.
Take your pick of the several politicians on either side of the aisle, you know, and take your pick of many business owners, you know.
Yeah, I mean, and literally, I brought up the China thing just because that literally was something that happened today and yesterday in the past couple of days. So when I heard as far as hacking and stuff like that goes. That was something I could relate to. But yeah, um, I honestly, to be honest, coming from somebody on the right, I don't think that the audit thing, great. I mean, regardless of the outcome and the proof and whatever the case may be, nothing was going to get turned over.
Right.
And I think there's a small handful of people that honestly think that things were going to get turned over.
Yeah.
And it's just not going to happen. Like, and if you didn't realize by now, I am a Trump supporter. I'm definitely right of center. But it doesn't mean that I'm a Trumper. And you know what? One thing I'd love to clarify for a lot of people that support Trump is we're not Trumpers. We don't worship this man. There's things that we disagree with about this guy. It's never been just oh my gosh, all hail Trump.
Mm-hmm.
It hasn't, it really hasn't. I would love to debunk that for most Trump supporters, honestly. Well, it's never been about that, because there's definitely, I throw out there all the time to people, like, what policies of Trump's did you not like and things like that. And, I'll tell you the ones that I don't like,
right. Yeah.
So, and I never get good feedback. Usually I get booted from those chats, but it's not because, I would love to just, talk about all that crap. I mean, would he be reinstated and all this bullshit with the audits? And no, he wouldn't be. So it was kind of pointless to me. It's the way I felt about it. And maybe that's too simple, but
no,
I just thought it was kind of, everybody wants to know that their vote counted. And I know people firsthand, that people I work with every day that, that voted, or no, they didn't vote, and they called about it and it showed that they voted and things like that. There was a bunch of weird shit that I know firsthand. I'm not talking about videos of hidden ballots and all that crap. I know firsthand of weird shit that happened this time around, which was unfortunate.
Well, and you know what? It's not to say that there wouldn't be, because this is the first time where and now, not for Arizona. Arizona's had no excuse mail-in balloting for over 30 years. We actually celebrated an anniversary of it during this election cycle. So it's been very prominent for us, and it's been very successful because we have a lot of older people in our communities, and that's really the reason we did it, because we're considered a retirement state, and there's old people that couldn't make it to the polls. It wasn't necessarily, that wasn't even done. The funny thing is back then, it was like the Democrats and the left that were trying to prevent that, because they knew in Arizona, if that happened, then the elderly people who were more populous than the younger people, and maybe the more what would be considered progressive, would have the vote. And so, like, there's always this politicization of like the voting process, right? And it's like, this is the one place where we should be able to find common ground and say, hey, listen, like, there should be no politicization. It should be straight down the middle, and like, this is just what it is. Everybody plays by the same rules, and that's it. And at the end of the day, like, whoever wins first past the post, that's the winner. That's the name of the game. All this politicization. I feel like we could all agree on a couple things. I don't think anybody would be upset with having a holiday where everybody could get off to go vote. Like, I think that's a basic.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's really basic.
And on the most fundamental level, you could do literally nothing else but do that. Yeah. And that would open up a lot for a lot of people. And I don't understand, like, that's the one thing I don't understand. Like, I heard Mitch McConnell going off about this shit when they were talking about, we want to give another federal holiday to people? Like, why on earth would we want to do that? And I'm like, dude, it's to go stand in line for 5 fucking hours. Like, are you kidding me? Like, it's not a vacation. Like, going to vote sucks. Like,
let me ask you this. Let me throw this in the middle of it real quick. What do you think about voter ID laws? What do you think about that? Because that's been part of it too. Like, as far as what's your thoughts? And like, should everybody be required to have an ID when they vote, or should they not?
It seems like you should have to have a voter registration card, right? And we are, like, most people already have to have that. And guess what you have to do to get a voter registration card? You have to show some ID, or you have to have been in the Social Security system to get it. So it's not exactly easy, but you know what we could do to make that more credible? Just put people's photos on the voter ID card.
You could do that, yeah.
And that would solve the problem. Here,
how much would that cost?
How much does it cost to get a driver's license? Like,
yeah. But you know what I'm saying. I'm just thinking about what they think about.
Yeah. You know, is that what? Being,
I mean, you gotta have an ID to buy. You gotta have an ID to buy alcohol. You have to have an ID to buy, to go where they card. You know, things like that. So to prove who you are and to prove that what you're doing, I don't think it's too much to ask.
No, I think the reason that I'm for doing it that way is because for people in rural areas, older people that are economically disadvantaged, getting around,
right?
And in some communities, like I know, man, I mean, I remember a while back here in Arizona, like I'm sure you remember, where they just shut down all the damn DMVs, or a large majority of them, you know. Right. Or cut the hours down where it was like, damn, dude, they're open like half the week. Like, what the hell am I supposed to do? Like, I need to go get my shit done. You know, so I look at those situations, and that's where I'm like, well, this is where the problem is. But I don't think the problem is with the voter ID laws. I think the problem is creating access to the IDs in the first place. Like, fix the access problem with getting the photo IDs that they need to go get to go vote. Right. And then you don't have the problem. And then, like, I would be on board with it. You know what I mean? I'd be like, yeah, voter ID laws sound great. Or, you know, it works because everybody's got that opportunity. I think that's what we run into right now, though, is that there's a lot of people that just can't, they can't get down there. Oh, holy shit. Pirate Empress is up in our chat. Oh, my God. I am flattered. How are you doing tonight, Pirate Empress? Have you ever seen her streams?
That sounds familiar.
She's a variety streamer. She does some awesome shit. Cosplay, anime stuff. She plays some cool games. Yeah, she's awesome. I'll give her a shout out too in the chat. We raided her one night, and like she gave me nothing but love back. Like all the love in the world. It was awesome.
Right.
So I was just I gotta give a shout out. But yeah, I mean, I think that you create. Sometimes here's my problem with politics on both sides of it. And I'm frank, I'm very, very, very to the left, but I recognize when we tokenize something, right? And I recognize sloganeering. And I think that these are things that are damaging no matter what, whether or not it's wanting to get something accomplished, your own personal goals, or whether it's creating like, a movement. Slogans on a certain level can be good, but like some sloganeering can turn things the wrong way. It can give the wrong impression of what you're trying to do. Like, for instance, and people are going to get mad at me for this, okay? But when people were like, defund the police, I'm like, wait, this is the wrong way to phrase this. Because none of them wanted to defund the police. What they really wanted to do is they wanted to figure out a way to make the police more effective, take responsibilities out of their hands that weren't their responsibility. Like, it's not their responsibility to deal with mental health situations. They are not trained on that. They're not educated on that. Why the hell would you want them doing that? You know, because they're going to go in scared as shit. I mean, they're going to see some big guy coming at them that's, got some issues, They don't know. They're going to protect themselves, and you need some, like, for that. That's like the good thing that are like here we do have things like Care 7, where you can call Care 7 instead of the police. There are programs like that, but it's a whole different bag. You know what I mean? And until we get to a place where we can segment out and really let police do the job of being crime fighters, which is what they're supposed to be doing, right? And be able to separate themselves from these other situations. Like, I'll give you an example, right? The highest rate of police mortality and assault type situations come up in domestic violence situations.
And traffic stops.
Yeah, hands down. Okay. Mm-hmm. I'm a firm believer in, number one, domestic violence situations. Like, you might want to have police as a security escort, but you need a counselor or somebody to talk these people down. A lot of times it's about approach.
Oh, for sure.
You know,
I mean, tactics and just good etiquette of how you deal with people. I mean, like, okay, not to cut you off in the middle, but like I was in retail for 25 years, right? And I think I mentioned at some point I'd worked at Walmart for that long. And I was in management for like 15, 16 years. So there was a big difference between when I went to the service desk for a return for some stupid bullshit, like somebody trying to return a fucking pool table that has nothing but sheetrock in the box. But when I go up to the service desk and how I would approach that person and say, you know, I mean, there's two ways that it could totally react from the response to it. You know, if I said to somebody, you don't have a receipt for this, why is there sheetrock in this? There's a big difference between that and saying, hey, is somebody playing a joke on you or something? Because actually we sell these with pool tables in them, you know, or this and that. So absolutely, when police officers and things like that approach the situation or say anything at all, how they open their mouth or what they say, how they walk up there, if their hands on their gun, or all that stuff plays a part in how somebody responds to it. And I used to have to make a conscious decision when I was dealing with those people with that stupid shit. You know, when they buy that DVD player and take it out to their car and they put this old beat up VCR in it and they bring it back in and be like, and this is what I bought. And I knew they were lying. I knew they were full of shit. And I knew all this crap, you know what I mean? But what I said to them when I came up there to deal with them, you know, and how I said it was a really big deal. I had to make a conscious decision to sound very objective and not one-sided, you know? So
yeah,
I just had to throw that because
I have to step out for just a second. I'm sorry that my delivery showed up. Give me just a second. I'll be right back.
Sorry, I got you. You guys ready? Yeah, they changed the title. Okay, what? No, that's. I want to change the title. I have no idea. Why can't I just leave it at that? Why didn't you change the title? Shoe. Why shoe? Hmm? Fine. Trumper. You're a Trumper. I'm not so much a Trumper. I'm more of a Republican than I am a Trumper. But I was raised Democrat. The first president I ever voted for, I'll pause this music. I'm more of a let's make fun of any president that messes up. Yeah, that's center. But I will say this: I was raised Democrat. I come from a family of musicians. I come from a family of brick masons. Everybody in my family was a brick mason. My dad, my brother, my uncle, my grandfather, all brick masons. I labored for my dad enough to know that it wasn't something I wanted to do for a living. It was fucking hard. And I think the first president candidate I ever voted for was Bill Clinton. I think I was 18 in high school.
Yeah.
Too old. And I voted for Obama his first term. I didn't vote for him his second term. I don't even know if I voted the second term. I skipped a few in between. And to be honest, I voted for Trump. Well, because I knew I wasn't voting for Hillary. That crazy bitch. Jesus Christ. So, and it was kind of a toss-up. And I was thinking to myself, honestly, if somebody knows how to run this country like a business, it'd be Donald Trump. And I was like, let's do it, you know? And to be honest, my views on it, you know, and this and that, and, you know, and there's a lot of people that could disagree, I'm sure, is that I honestly feel that the man ran the country better than any president I've seen in my lifetime. And that has nothing to do with all hail Trump. You know, it has nothing to do with it. I swear to you. I mean, the things that a lot of the left doesn't like about that guy is a lot of the same things that we don't. You know, we didn't like all the stupid tweets. We don't like all the this and that and the arrogance, but we like results, and I like results. And it was the first president that I saw personally that produced results and for what he said. There's certain things that right from the beginning I didn't agree with. I didn't agree with the wall. I never did because I thought it was just, I mean, you know, things for theft and things for that are deterrents only keep honest people honest. I mean, a wall is like, okay, sounds like a waste of money to me. They just make a higher ladder, or they just dig a little deeper. I mean, it's like, so I never saw eye to eye to that. I never saw eye to eye on the vaccine. I get it that he was probably doing it for the public. Mm-hmm. They wanted to see something. They wanted to. They had to have something to lean back on, you know. But other than that, everything else that I saw, you know, from this guy was something that I appreciated. You know, there was Secret Service agents that went around and filmed this guy that didn't make it to the public video. There's thousands of hours, like not thousands, but lots of hours of videos of this man that wasn't necessarily public stuff. Like when he went on to every C-130 that brought back dead and deceased troops from overseas, every single one he went on to with the families. And for whatever reason, for with the families and thoughts and, and that's something that meant a lot to me. You know, I've got friends that have died overseas and that feels pretty shitty, to be honest. There's a lot of veterans out there that feel guilty and have this kind of guilt when their fellow Marines or their fellow troops or whoever they served with go overseas, and when they're out and stuff like that, they end up dying. You know, it's hard to see that a lot of times. I'm not looking for sympathy, you know what I mean? But it's one of those things that that I can really appreciate, you know. And there's certain facts that about the man that people don't understand, you know, him bringing people out of prisons from overseas that have been, you know, from our country. He's brought more American citizens home than any other president. Any other president. I mean, there's tons of things like that. So it doesn't matter of, like, once again, I'm going to say it's not a matter of all hail Trump. It's just a matter of results and what hits heart and what hits home for me.
So I'm going to jump in a little bit here, but here's what I have to say about that. Okay. I do think that if you talk about somebody who is shooting to accomplish their aims as a president, I think he was extremely effective. What he wanted to do, he did. I mean, he did what he wanted to do.
Right.
If you were voting for him and you're voting for that platform, I could see how somebody who voting for that platform would say that is a very effective president, because he is doing just that. He's executing on exactly what it is that he said he was going to execute on. Right. So I understand that point. However, I would push back a little bit about the job situation. It seemed like he gave a lot of he granted a lot of tax leniency to certain businesses and industries, and they said, "Hey, we're going to keep the jobs here," and then they would turn around and shut down the plants and move the jobs anyways. So I don't feel like that was very fiscally responsible. I think if we're talking about, you know, being fiscally conservative, I feel like he didn't really do that there. When it comes to wanting to get the troops out of Afghanistan, I think that he was steadfast in that, and I really believe that's something he wanted to do.
It is, and not to interject necessarily, but I mean, and I'll say, and people will be like, "Oh my God, he did this," but I mean, he made deals with the Taliban.
But that's who you have to make deals with.
He did.
You know,
he did. Yeah.
You're not going to make a deal with the Afghan government because the Afghan government was already weak. Like, we were propping them up. Everybody knew that we were propping them up. So there are things that even as somebody on the left, I can say, okay, well, you know, I'm one of those people that I don't seek cult of personality. I look at like what it is, you know, show me, you know, Let's put it on its face and let's air it out, you know. So I will never say, you know, even though I disagree about, you know, Trump being a great president, I can say that for his constituents, he did a lot of what he said that he was going to do, more than a lot of presidents had done. So I think that a lot of them feel like they got something. A lot of the constituents feel like something was accomplished, right? So it kind of galvanized their support for him. Because it's like, we feel like he is speaking to us and he's doing for us. And he's basically flouting the system and saying, screw this shit. I'm going to do it my way. However, when you look at somebody from my perspective, I say he's paving the way towards fascism because of his flouting of like executive responsibilities, his aggressive tactics, the way that he approached governing. I really did see a very clear opportunity for a slide into fascism. Maybe not him directly, but somebody who would follow after.
You got to remember this, just like Ronald Reagan. Well, Ronald Reagan was probably more so a politician, but you got to remember, no matter what, by default, that Donald Trump was never a politician. He was never a politician. He was an entertainer. He's a businessman. He was never a politician. So like guys like Obama or even DeSantis at this point, you know, which are people that are in the prospects for the Republican Party for running for presidency. But like, those are politicians, but he's not. So all this stuff that I was willing to overlook too, just because of, you know, I mean, and that's my biggest argument now to everyone that disapproved him is, you know, it's funny because I see more people on the left and more liberals carrying on more and more about Trump than the right is. I mean, granted, there's this whole 2020 audit and all this crap, but I mean, you don't know how many streams I've been kicked out of on TikTok or this and that because all they are is Trump. It says in the background, Trump lost, LOL. You know, there's hundreds of these people that do this, and I'm not carrying on and Trump. He's not our president at this point. Biden is, and he's a fucking idiot. And to think that that people are honestly defending this guy and what's happening to this country and what is going on is really it hurts me, and it's embarrassing and those kind of things that I have a hard time with.
So from the veteran side of things, I can understand your argument. You know, what I saw happen in Afghanistan and you know what's continued to
that was my next question to you, actually. So I'm glad you're bringing that up.
I'm not a supporter. I'm really fucking pissed off, dude, to tell you the truth, because I feel like the way that we handled the situation was a very abrupt pullout. And I don't know if that's because of some deal that was made prior or if that's something that they chose to do. I truly don't know, you know. I think they got shit intelligence, and they killed a family of freaking 10, you know, with a bunch of kids in a goddamn fucking truck that they followed around and surveilled. They surveilled the truck for 8 hours. Are you telling me they couldn't have stopped that truck before then and just said, hey, motherfucker, what are you doing? No, they had to blow them the fuck up, you know? And,
exactly right.
And, you know, like, it's like, that's I'm sorry. Every time I think about that shit, it makes my blood boil because it's like, and I was in a panel the other night where I was talking about this. 8 fucking hours. And Top Dolphin, who I actually really respect, he's a great guy, but he's like, so what? They surveilled him for 8 hours. They still made a mistake. I'm like, do you get what that means to surveil? They had video footage of them. They were watching them. They had enough knowledge and enough whereby to be able to, if they really thought that that was him, they could have taken him out when he was by himself without all the kids in the fucking truck. You know, that's some shock and awe type shit that you see people do to scare the shit out of populations. Like, to me, it sounds more like a strategic strike to just scare the shit out of people. Like, you know, in that community, not necessarily over here, but and then they get to throw their arms up and be like, yeah, it was a mistake. whatever, but we
Right.
know that shock and awe works to demoralize, insurgent populations. They don't like that shit,
Nope. But all the Afghanistans knew right off the bat that it was going to be, you going rollerblading? Sorry. You going rollerblading, honey? All right. God damn.
So
She's so hot. Sorry. Sorry. There's only one thing that could override anything that would be ass walking by. So anyway, okay. What were we talking about?
No, just simply, I agree that the
That's
pullout
horrible.
was a total shit show.
It was, and here's so here's another thing too is that
and the 13
with
and the 13
Trump
of our
done it-
military that died. I mean, that's the other
Yep.
side of that.
it's so like just I mean, and here's what I truly think, because I mean everybody wants to say Biden this, Biden that, and he's at this point I just feel like he's just such a puppet. Like there's just so much he's just going through the motions, like tell me what to do or whatever. Like I can't even blame the man, honestly. But I'll tell you, all the high-ranking officers that are in the Army, the Marine Corps, all these guys are the ones that should be held accountable for it.
I
Hands
agree.
down, 100%.
They're the ones
because
saying to pull the
regardless of
trigger.
That's it.
And
So
that's
they're
why
like,
you get the
even
pay.
if, yep. Even if Biden is literally just like, okay, let's pull out right now. Okay, well, your job is to make sure that you execute it correctly and all that stuff. And you're right; they get paid to answer for it. They get paid to be held accountable for it. And I think that's my biggest hiccup here in this whole thing for Afghanistan is that we have leaders that we have in place to make these decisions, to make things right, and obviously we did not execute it correctly at all. It was just garbage, and just pulling the fucking trigger and just pulling the cork out of the fucking drain and watching everything just flow down like that was just absolutely just stupid. And it's still causing people's lives. Taliban hasn't been they didn't go anywhere. They've just been on standby, just like anything else. And ISIS, their true intent is to have a true caliphate of the world. And it's just it's so there's nothing positive from it whatsoever. Nothing that has happened.
Well, yeah, and I concur with you on that. I do agree with you. But I'm glad we got out. But this wasn't the way to do
Yep.
it.
No,
this
for
was
sure.
not the way to do it.
And I wouldn't be the one to say that Trump would have done any better. I think he probably, I don't know. It's total speculation. You know what I mean? But like, I mean, I knew he had a deal and he had talked to Taliban and this and that. And I think he would have, I don't know. He had to have something in place, something more to ease it out possibly. But still, once again, even him, like I said, those high-ranking leaders that are in the military are the ones that should be held accountable for this. And there's never. When's the last time you saw a general on trial for decisions being made, especially military decisions? When's the last time you seen it?
Well, I always point to the hog. Nobody in the U.S. military or in any official United States government capacity has ever been tried at the hog. I mean, why? Why are we above that?
Yep. I mean, absolutely. I mean, that's
If
the whole
you
purpose
commit
of it. That's
war
why it's
crimes,
there.
yeah. If you commit war crimes,
Yeah.
you commit war crimes. And that's the end of it.
And then look to just read some chat here. Hold on. Executing a family in the front of the house before executing the father. Yep. There's been tons of stuff like that going on, Shoe Eater. Lots of stuff, man. And it's not going to stop. So, with that being said, I need to fill up my glass with some cheap-ass J&B.
Do it.
So I'm just going to run and do that, and I'm going to come back. And then I want to bring up the contracting for overseas and stuff like that. I worked for a contracting company for Department of State for 8 months when I got out of the Marine Corps for Department of State at Main State 22nd and C Street. So I have some thoughts and views on that as well.
Oh yeah, let's get into it.
All right,
for sure.
So just give me a minute and I'll be right back. Okay.
Sounds good.
All right.
All right, guys. So we're taking a little break. It looks like his head's twitching right there, right? I don't know what's happening with that. I think Ed's in there messing with him. But what
My Discord is still up, but what else?
Shoe eater. It's a seizure.
I'll be right back.
Yep. Thanks for coming in, Shoe Eater. Glad to have you with us. TwitchCon 2018. Wow. Holy shit. You're like an all-star. You've been in the game for a hot second. I'm like 7 weeks into this shit. So, he has strokes at that old age. So what we're talking about, we've got, we have a Trump supporter on. You've been a Trump a follower of Devil Dog since back when he played games and you did woodworking. Holy shit. So just to recap everybody else that's hopped in, that's maybe not in the chat, we're talking to somebody who supported Trump in the election. He says that he wants to dispel the myth of being a Trumper, meaning that he is not a part of the cult of Trump. He simply saw policies that he liked that were working for him, and he was A-okay with that, and that's where it's at.
What's up, Cut?
And there's, you know what? It's better that somebody is voting off of policy than off of cult of personality. So I can at least, I think that's where me and Devil Dog kind of are able to come together a little bit, because we both see that, that you have to vote off of policy. It's about policy. So I was just talking about how, we come from different sides of the aisle, but both of us are more interested in policy and results than, cult of personality, and
I'm really looking forward to our relationship, honestly, because I love the idea how we're on two sides, because this is the problem right now with everything that's going on, is that nobody can get along and nobody can discuss and nobody can have a view. And so my biggest question out of all this is that at what point did it become not okay to disagree?
I have an answer for that. And it goes back to when we were children, when a lot of us were children, and there was something that we were told not to do. You don't talk about politics and you don't talk about religion. Correct. And we told our parents told us that, and a lot of their parents told them that, and so nobody talked about it. So instead of saying, hey, you know what, we need to learn how to have very robust discourse and find common ground, we said, no, people shouldn't talk about it. Nobody will talk about it, and that's going to be okay. That's going to make things work.
It's still like that to this day. I mean, you click on rules in any stream you go into, no religion, no politics, nobody wants to talk about it.
Well, yeah, I mean, even amongst my social friends outside of like Twitch community, I can't talk to them even a little bit about politics. I mean, it's a non-starter, not going to happen. Oh, I was almost there myself today, man. I was about to shave my head.
My hair that I used to have was actually like Jeff Hanneman, a Slayer.
Oh, nice.
It really was. This is my, I don't like my shiny head on the screen, so a hat. I never wear a hat backwards, just like George Carlin said, after the age of 12, it's time to spin that motherfucker around. I never do it, but if I do this, it's just a little too dark. This is the company I work for.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to wear mine a little bit up in just the angle of my light.
Yeah.
But it took me a second to figure that out.
So I mentioned that I work for a contract company. I don't know if you want to dive into that or not.
Yeah, because I've always had a particular feeling about the military-industrial complex, as in don't fucking trust them to do the right thing.
So let me tell you my backstory of what I wanted to do and why I joined the Marine Corps in the first place. If you want to hear that,
sure. Yeah, let's go into it.
All right. So I originally, I always wanted to be a Marine as a young kid. I got mixed up in a lot of bad stuff as younger, so I ended up dropping out my senior year of high school. Like, what? You're there? What'd you do that for? But it doesn't matter. So then I still wanted to be a Marine, so I went back to adult education and got my diploma because the Marine Corps won't take you with a GED.
Mm-hmm.
And joined the Marine Corps in 1998 after getting my high school diploma when I was 24 years old. Wow, this guy's really smart.
Hey man,
But
I
anyway,
got my
whatever.
GED at 16, so I can't say nothing.
Right on.
You know.
Yeah, I got you. So, but I wanted to be a Marine, and that's the one thing that Marines have in common. That's what recruiters look for, is they want they want guys who want to be Marines. You
Right.
know, they don't, because it is the black sheep of the family. They're the most underfunded, uh, you know, branch of the military. They don't even have their own department. They belong to the Department of Navy. You know, so, but so I wanted to go into law enforcement, and what's funny about that is that, you know, I was mixed up in a lot of bad stuff, did a lot of bad things and drugs in the mid and late 80s, and I got into law enforcement idea, and I wanted to be a Marine. So when I got out of the Marine, so when I hit my 4 years, it was coming up, I knew I wasn't going to re-enlist. I wanted to go back to Tallahassee, Florida, and be a cop. And I always sucked at school, but I was thinking, hey, I was a Marine. I got all this discipline now. I'll go back and I'll go to college for 2 years and I'll join the police department. And I went back and kind of did that. And I still hated school just as much and this and that. So, um, but let me back up just a hair. So when I got out of the Marine Corps, for 8 months, I lived out of Stafford, Virginia, which is right outside of Quantico, and I was stationed in Quantico, Virginia.
Okay.
And I worked for Department of State at Main State and 22nd and C Street for Uniform Diplomatic Security, which at the time was a company called Intercon. I don't even know what the company is now, but it's still a contracted company. But during that time, I also applied. I went to a job fair when I first got out, and I applied for the CIA. And so during that whole time, I was actually going through the hiring process for the CIA. They did a huge background check. But for Department of State, since I just got out of the Marine Corps, I acquired my my full TS clearance, for Department of State, which is, you know, top secret. But I guess it came so quick because I just got out of the Marine Corps, and they kind of were able to keep up with me for the last few years.
Mm-hmm.
And so after the first month or two, I was on a special squad, not a squad, but more like a platoon that was called Special Operations Unit, SOU. And we did all the inbounds and the outbounds for Colin Powell. So this is just to give you a time frame.
Okay.
Colin Powell and Yasser Arafat. You know, that was the two big guys.
Oh wow. Okay. Yep.
Obviously. And I got out in 2002. So, and so Special Operations Unit for Uniform Diplomatic Security at Intercon. And I did that for 8 months while I was going through the hiring process for the CIA. I went through their entire screening process, from their first interview with everyone, where you take a test, to 2 weeks of it was straight 2 weeks of it was a physical eval, a psych eval, and a lie detector polygraph. So I aced them all. I aced the physical, doing a dab.
Gotta do it. Gotta get it in.
I had to. So I aced the physical, aced the psych eval, and it's supposed to be 2 days of polygraph, and only had to do one because I did so well on the first one.
You're like, I'm not lying about shit.
Right. This isn't tooting my own horn. I mean, I told them all kind of stuff. They were like, what? No, they really weren't. But they just really wanted to find out how honest you were, and regardless of what you've done.
Right.
So, you know.
Because they need to know that you've got some integrity when you're going into doing some shit like that.
And it's funny, they focus more on financial stuff and things like that for what you would do for money. If you would sell out, you know, top secret information, blah, blah, blah. So, long story short, I don't know why I'm getting all into this. I never tell this story, to be honest, because it's just one of those things. I don't know. Long story short, a couple weeks later, maybe a month later, I can't remember, but I got a letter of job acceptance and this and that, and I literally packed up my shit and went back to Florida.
So I'm out.
I'm not kidding you. So I left. I was married. I was with my first wife for like 13 years, and I started dating this Japanese girl named Yuko, and we had some problems, and it was a rebound relationship, and I literally pulled the plug on the CA after their acceptance letter, and given me a job offer, and I went back to Florida, and that's when I tried the college thing, which I still sucked at.
Right.
So, but in that whole interim for intercon and stuff like that for the CIA, I know that's what we were originally talking about. It wasn't anything crazy, but what I do know from working where I did and this and that, it was still a third party. It wasn't a G position. I didn't get paid through the government, like I said, but at the time I was also offered at multiple times, contract work for overseas. And let me tell you what those contracts paid for overseas, for contractors to go over and do different work and stuff like that, was, at the time, I remember it was $150,000 for I want to say a year, or it was like $400,000 for 3 years that you commit to. And I guess the only thing to really add to all this thing for contractors and stuff like that is the money is there.
Yeah, right.
They pay well, you know what I mean? And there's a lot of ex-military and a lot of veterans that got out that did this,
Do you think that was all by choice or kind of by circumstance? Like, shit, I don't know what to do now. This is what I know, and so
yep, for sure.
I guess that's what I'll do.
Oh, for sure. And and I remember at one point when I seen one of the original offers that came up, I sent an email out to all my friends. I think this was the only time I ever did this, and literally showed them the job description and stuff like that, and said, should I do this or not? I mean, because you're just saving money. You go over there and you do what you need to do, and you just literally put money in the bank, and
because
you come back.
You get
not
per
rich,
diems
but
and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've known some people that have done it was basically through a military contractor, but they were actually laying lines for oil, for like the oil rigs and shit.
Yeah.
And
no, there's tons of stuff like that.
And so they were going out there, but it was a semi through a military contractor situation. I can't remember how it all worked out, but they were like, yeah, dude, like, we can't wait to go back because there's so much money. And these guys were single, young kids and shit. And so they're like, yeah. I don't give a shit, like, I'll go back there.
And you know what's funny? There's so much money. You mentioned that when it comes down to politicians and it comes down to, from right or left, it doesn't matter, honestly. We're such a greedy fucking country. We are so fucking greedy. And that's why we sell out. We sell out to places like China and this and that. Myself and my boss and a couple guys that I work with, we're an all-American company, and we take pride in that, that we don't outsource to anything like that. But, like for a knife company and this and that, the majority of them, they sell out real quick because it's easy money.
Yeah, it's cheap to get a knife made overseas, especially.
Oh my gosh. And so that's why I love where I work. I mean, like, I love where I work, and I wear a hat that says the name on it all the time. I have 50 of these fucking hats. You know what I mean? And I can't remember the last time I ever said that, to work somewhere that actually felt like it stood for something and things like that.
Well, one thing you will always get my agreement on is I think that we really need to keep as much of our industry in the country as possible. And I'm not a big fan of us exporting jobs. I hated NAFTA. I thought NAFTA was a shit agreement. It was horrible. And I didn't even think NAFTA 2.0 was good because you know what? It still wasn't putting the power back in the hands of the American workers. We were still losing fucking jobs, and it was still people who are in the blue collar position that are on the outs. We need those fucking jobs. Like, we need those jobs. Like, you got people that do have skills, you know, in like blue collar industry that are getting grossly underpaid because we're fighting for wages against people in China. Like, how are you going to, like, if I know...
You can't compete with a fucking 14-year-old making soccer balls by hand.
Yeah, you know. Well, and that's the truth. They're getting paid 25 cents an hour, you know, or some shit like that, or less, you know. And it's like, okay, so if you want to come and work in an American factory, yeah, we'll hire you, but you know what? We're already paying those people only 5 cents an hour, so we're not going to give you shit. Like, and it's like, this is a skill. This is a skill set. This is a learned skill set. This is something you have to get better at over time, you know. You go, and if you go through the trade system or you go through the union system, you know, you're going through that tradesman, the journeyman, you know, going through all the steps, you know. And it's like these people put a lot of sweat, blood, and tears to get paid dog shit, you know, and they're getting paid dog shit because we offshore jobs. And so there's a solid agreement you'll have with me there. We should not be offshoring American jobs, like good jobs. We have a lot of them. And you know what? People don't want to give me that shit about, well, you know, well, immigrants are taking all the good jobs. No, they're not. They're taking the jobs that we won't do, you know, like, and that's the simple truth.
Absolutely. The day that you see a white guy fucking landscaping my front yard will be a fucking weird fucking day. I'll tell you that right now. I mean, who cares? I mean, like, it's, and that's another thing. Okay, so misconception in the southern border and this and that, as far as Republicans go, especially somebody here that's in Arizona, which you are too. Mm-hmm. I've never been against, you know, especially the southern border that's coming over, you know, for that reason. And it's not because I personally don't want, oh my God, I'm not going to pick tomatoes. Oh my God. Yeah. It's not that, but you know, this gives work to these people, and they do provide back into the community. My biggest issue, and I could say the Haiti thing, you know, but my biggest issue is Iran. My biggest issue is the Middle East. It's going to come through the southern border. You know, with that being said,
I think for me,
9/11 and things like that are a real, true, scary thought. You know, that's like. You know, to be honest, to Trump's defense, I mean, while he was in office, we never had a terrorist threat. They were gone. They just evaporated. Nobody gave him credit for that.
Well, there really wasn't much of one under Obama either, though. You know what I mean?
Well, I know, but it was still pretty fresh and this and that.
There was what we do have though. Here's what the problem is, man. Here's where the problem comes with Trump. And here's where I'm going to just drop a little bit of knowledge on this shit. Our domestic terrorism, meaning white terrorism against people of other religions outside the norm and other races outside, like the white population, went up over 200%. That doesn't happen for no reason. He's creating a sense of and this is where I have problems with Trump, is I feel like he was committing stochastic terrorism. I feel like he was encouraging people to hurt other people. You know, there's video evidence of him telling people to hit people at rallies. You know, I mean, as somebody who is going to lead a country. This is beyond the pale, because what you're doing is you're creating divergence in the country. You're creating a divergence. You're separating people surely by scare tactics, and though you can look at a paper and say he did this, and this, the actions that he committed through his rhetoric ripped a hole in this country. And I'm not going to say Obama was great, because I had my problems with him. I was actually a Dennis Kucinich fan. I wanted Dennis Kucinich. That was my dude, because he was for Medicare for all before people were talking about Bernie. Like, that was his game, you know. And I had a friend whose mom was dying of liver failure and didn't have the money to get treatment and didn't have the money to take care of herself. So, And this was after she had burnt out all of her insurance, right? She capped out on everything. And she literally had to watch her die on her couch, you know? And that after that, like, I was like, no, we need a nationalized healthcare system of some sort, at least on the base level, or something to subsidize better than these insurance companies, because they're fucking people over. She could have lived if she had the money for the necessary operation. She would have lived. She would have been fine. She would, you know, I mean, obviously she's going to have troubles throughout her life, but she would have sustained life and been fairly comfortable. But insurance caps screwed that for her. She died as a result, you know, like, and I've seen and heard a lot of that. And that's the shit that scares me. That's the shit I worry about. So when there was a Dennis Kucinich, I was like, yeah, I was not an Obama fan because I knew exactly what he was doing. I knew he was running the Heritage Foundation healthcare plan. That's a Heritage Foundation healthcare plan. It was meant to be applied at the state level, not the national level, which is why the bill was 6 million pages long, because it wasn't meant for national distribution. It was meant for state distribution. Right. But I was like all in, like, let's just expand Medicare. Screw it. Give it to everybody. Give everybody at least a base level of medical care, you know, or some kind of substantial subsidy through the government so that people don't fucking die, you know?
So, but you know, I mean,
you got to remember,
you know that time, nothing is free.
Yeah. And there's a lot of people that haven't been paying their share of the load. And they can go ahead and we can cash in those chips. It's time to cash in those chips.
But printing off money does what? Just printing off more money does what?
It can create inflation, but not really, because we're our own sovereign currency. We can print as much money as we want. Let that money printer burr, baby, burr that money printer. Let's go.
But the value of the dollar, the value of the dollar goes where?
It's not going to go down enough to hurt anything. I'll tell you that, because you know what? You know what every other country did during the COVID pandemic? Money machine go burr. Money machine go burr. They were doing it all over the world because that's the only way they could sustain themselves.
So with that said, so where does gas prices that are going up, where does that come from?
It's not coming from the money machine going burr. It's coming from scarcity of the resource. And that could be because of conflict right now in the Middle East. A year ago from now, us being a self-sufficient oil country, they could literally, like, I don't know, hold countries hostage because of our oil that we have. That's not around anymore. Why isn't that around? Biden hasn't done anything about oil. He hasn't changed anything about our fossil fuel policy.
So what about the pipeline?
He had nothing to do with that. That got shut.
Okay.
That got shut the fuck down through the courts. He couldn't. He didn't have a say in that shit. Listen.
It was like one of his first executive orders, man. Come on. It was like one of his first executive orders. Was like the pipeline.
Shutting down the pipeline. Wait, hold on. Which one? The XL? Keystone XL? The one that was going to give us...
Yeah, that was like...
that was going to give us 300 temporary jobs, and then the rest of the jobs are going to be in Canada?
All right, so the local fuel that was so much cheaper. Why do you think lumber went up?
That line wasn't built yet. That line wasn't built. That line wasn't built. Are you saying that we're paying gas prices on speculation? If so, that's market malpractice, and we should be doing something about that.
Man, I'm just saying. All I'm saying is that we were a super prime. Like, check us out. We have oil here. You know, we're not that. Hey, look at us now. We have oil here, country anymore. That's.
Did you hear?
Am I right?
Did you hear what China just did?
Who?
China. Did you hear what they just did? They're our biggest competitor.
China. Is it China?
We're gonna build a wall.
Just hear me out, guys. I'm a Trump supporter. I could totally pick on him. See, I could totally pick on him.
But
we have some of the best oil ever.
But China just
oil is the greatest.
Just came out saying they are decommissioning all of their coal interests, all of them, all their coal interests. And you know what? Now let me tell you, if they do that, they're beating us in the green energy race, and that's huge. That's huge. We do need to be ahead of the game in that. We should be the producers of solar panels. We should be the ones distributing those throughout the world. We have the workforce to do that. And that's what the consensus is. You know, we could do some nuclear, we could do some solar, we could do some wind, you know, get off the fossil fuel dick, you know, and get on to something better.
Okay, so I'm a little baked right now, a little faded. But I want to bring up a totally different subject real quick, all right? And because I'm not a big conspiracy theorist at all. Like, I don't know how much you are or not.
Well, the name Jason Society, bruh. I was in the rabbit hole. I lived in the rabbit hole, dude. I was living in it.
But so much conspiracy stuff, I just kind of just brush off. I don't normally, it's not my thing. But I'm gonna tell you something that I do totally believe now. And I'm gonna see what your thoughts are. I totally believe I can't believe I'm actually saying this live. I totally believe that the moon landing now was a fake.
I don't know. I watched some shit on Stanley Kubrick about that. Like, there was actually a movie.
Exactly.
Like a straight up movie about that shit.
His deathbed, right? His deathbed? Where he's like, I filmed it and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, and there were some other. I remember there were some other clues to that shit even before that. There were people talking about like, how they were bringing shit onto a set and this and that.
I just blew that stuff off. I was like, oh come on, you're stupid.
Here's
what after Kubrick's deathbed, like.
Here's what I've kind of developed my own thoughts on that are, and they could be right, they could be wrong. I think we probably did land on the moon. But the technology sucked back then. How the fuck are we going to get a camera onto the goddamn moon to fucking project from the moon to the Earth? Like, yes, maybe it happened. Maybe it happened just like they said it happened. But what the fuck are you saying? We had fucking cellular technology that went from the moon to the fucking Earth in 1960? Shit. You still had party lines where somebody would call your phone number and the next door neighbor's phone would ring. What the fuck, dude? Are you kidding me? No, I think that it may have happened. I think there may have been recording of it, but I sure as fuck don't think it was live. And that's what they tried to make. That's what they tried to sell it as. Like, how the fuck are you gonna do that? Come on, dude. Like. Think about it. Like,
all right.
If anybody ever wanted to have a conspiracy, think about conspiratorial about our government and our like what capabilities we have.
All right.
Like you're cranking it up right there, baby. Because it's like, oh, you mean back then we could do that? Shit, we can barely do some fucked up shit like that now. What the fuck are they doing to us? You know, like, of course people think they're gonna fucking chip us, dude. Like, what the fuck? You know, like, yes.
All right. Oh my god, I'm dying here. I'm pretty baked. I don't know about you.
I maintain a level of mental limberness.
Right, how are they feeling? I can't see it.
What's that?
I was looking at what's your chat saying right now? Where are they at?
They're saying America hurting because of hackers. Don't you know the Great Green Wall of China? Arminus the Wise.
Oh,
I freaking love you. I smoke the Great Green Wall of China every day as fast as I possibly can. I'm going to smoke the whole damn wall down.
All right,
I'm working
Jay,
on it.
Listen, I'm going to have to get off, man. I gotta see what my wife's doing, check on my kids.
All right, brother.
Fate
Well,
is
I'm
fun.
glad you hopped on. And as a fellow Arizonan, I would gladly have you on again because there are definitely some things we do agree on and we can laugh
sure,
about.
man.
So,
I love it. Honestly, man, it's been a real pleasure, man. Seriously.
like I said, man, like there's always convergences. There's always places we can come together and like understand
Yep.
one another. And that's what this is about, brother. So I'm glad that you came on. Hope you have a good day.